medical.
Under the new law, it is still illegal to use pot in public, on college campuses, and while driving.
But it's a Monday.
Smoking marijuana all in public. You would think that shit was legal.
Well, marijuana is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are people sitting in prison today for marijuana offenses.
Marijuana is not a drug.
A bill to decriminalize marijuana on the federal level was passed by the House Judiciary Committee today on a 24-10 vote.
That's some heavy shit, man.
As more and more states make marijuana legal, Major League Baseball will change its policy to keep up. The league has removed pot from its list of drugs of abuse and replaced it with opioids.
I'm hitting it so hard.
Well, you know, Al, obviously you're active in the cannabis community. Yep. And my question for you is, when is the NBA going to catch up with the rest of society and change their policies when it comes to cannabis?
I think it's really soon because the players is like, they want it bad. You know what I'm saying? They bring it up, you know, in meetings.
Critics worry the wait could lead to high demand on the black market where there's no oversight.
What kind of joint is this, man?
Medical.
And welcome to Medical Mondays, y'all. This is your host with the most, THC, and his motherfucking bloodstream, BERG. That's Berg, motherfuckers. And of course, I got my right-hand man, my compadre, my co-host, Ed Arocho. What up, Doug? Oh. Can you hear me? Nothing?
What up, dog? I'm fucking with you.
All right. Could you hear me, though?
Yeah.
All right, you fucking asshole. Of course, we got our boy Rick Thompson in the building. What up, though? Oh, your mic's muted. Before anything else, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors.
All of them?
All of them. Huge shout out to Honeybee Extractions.
What?
Native Made 313. Ghostbuster Farms. Western Tobacco. Michigan Turf Farms. Michigan Ganja Queen. And Label My Motherfucking Bud, girl. Boom. Yeah, thanks to all of our sponsors. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. I'm about to fire up some of this Berry Melano by Michigan Turf Farms. So yeah, how was everybody's weekend?
Man, I finally stopped bursting all over the place.
Yeah.
Viagra overload, is that what was going on?
Close.
Bursting everywhere?
Close. Native Made, Native Burst. Shout out Miss Green. Those little things are phenomenal, Rick. If you've never had one, you need to get one in your life. Like 10. You need to get 10 in your life.
Native Made's been up at Vehicle City many, many times. I'm very familiar with that product line. Good people. Solid folks crafting that shit.
Yeah.
Most
but
definitely.
Starburst, though. Oh my God.
Yeah, the Starburst. You only get 2 of them. Each one of them is 50 milligrams. And people don't understand that. And they'll chop them both and fucking think they'll be fine the rest of the night. Nah. Well, if you're trying to sleep, you'll be all right.
On Sunday, I ended up at a bowling tournament, open smoking 420 friendly bowling tournament with axe throwing and all kinds of stuff.
What?
It's amazing.
Why wasn't I involved?
It's a special little group, Genesee County people, but next month in July, it's going to get opened up. I think we'll be able to invite some more people. It was just a blast. Kirk Reed was there, had a lot of his stuff. Jason Durham from Lansing was there. I got a puzzle piece. I am a piece of the solution, so I got a puzzle piece to show that.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a lot of great things we're going. A lot of good people there too. A lot of stuff is still happening on the down low in the state. People still getting out doing things and social distancing and being safe while they do it. I love our community, man. We got balls.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Shout out to all of the Michigan cannabis community. Shout out to all the other states out there tuned in too.
Uncle Cannabis was a big sponsor of that as well too. I didn't want to forget him, John Doe.
Yeah, I haven't been bowling in years, man. Fucking Roach knows. I was a big bowler for a minute till a car accident. So.
Big bowling with my homies.
Oh man, I was like bowling. Bowling.
And Berg can tell you, I have mastered the Fred Flintstone technique of bowling, where you launch the ball out like 20 feet in the air, and then it just hits the fucking lane and goes in the gutter.
Yeah.
Makes a little hole and then just useless, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know how you got the first set of little arrows going up, and then there's some more further down the lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll set it down on the first set. This motherfucker just. Whew.
I felt so bad.
Bro, half the time it makes it past the second fucking arrows.
I don't know, man. Bowling is not my thing, bro. It's not my thing. But like the last time I went mini bowling, where it's like the little palm-sized balls.
You're playing Canadian bowling. That's Canadian bowling right there.
Yeah, like it was like a bar and grill, and they had like a little fucking shit upstairs. I was kind of drunk, and when it was all said and done, like I walked down the lane, and I could see like it was just pockmarks all in the wood. I fucked up. They'll probably never. They don't want me back at that establishment. I don't even want to mention their name. I had a great time though.
Shout out to our boy Jamie's in the building. Jamie Lowell.
Hello.
Man, you should change your name to Jamie Heil. What? Wait a minute.
What?
No. Don't do that.
I know. Wait a minute.
Maybe Upple. Instead of Lowell, Upple, but yeah, not Heil. That's probably.
Yeah, not Heil. My bad, bro. My bad.
All right, Roach. You trying to get my boy fucked up?
I like the direction you're going, just not the street you chose. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Shout out
Me
to
too.
everybody in the chat. We got Dylon, we got Georgie B, we got Triple MP Paul, Patricia, Chronic Illusions. Shout out to Amy O'Brien, aka Cannabis. Wait a minute, is it Michigan Cannabis Promos or just Cannabis Promos? No, I think it's Cannabis Promos 313 on IG. We got Terry and Michigan Turf Farms. What up, though?
Where's that girl? What's that ganja gal that's supposed to call in? Come on now. Video call.
Yeah, what happened to that, Roach?
Who?
He doesn't
forgot
even
already.
It's only been 5 minutes and he
Man.
doesn't even know what the fuck.
Love them and leave them. Holy shit, that's fast.
You were talking to a girl. In the
Oh,
fucking
I'm talking. That's why I'm distracted, because I'm talking to her now. She was trying to hop on. She's trying to hop on, and her browser doesn't support it, and like she just got in from Traverse City. Blah 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 blah. I'm letting her off the hook.
She has a phone though. She has a phone. She has
Yeah.
a phone, and she can download the Zoom app.
Notice a void of C Murder here so far tonight.
Oh yeah, C Murder can make it. Shout out to her boy C Murder.
You guys are gonna have to pick on Rick then.
Yeah, I mean that's how it usually goes. But sorry, Rick.
No, it's cool. I can take it. I'm a good target.
So yeah, did you find that article, Rick? that Roach was talking about?
I did, and I read most of it. It's exciting. So just for our listeners, Los Angeles, looks like the city council is talking about doing some social equity adjustments in order to make things right with their system. And one of them that they're talking about doing is just immediately approving everybody that's applied for social equity, at least on a temporary basis, so they can get started on their projects. And then if there's adjustments they need later on, they could make that happen. But that's a pretty bold move. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think they need to do that in Michigan.
Yeah, get the shit going, man, you know, and help the people through the processes.
Yep.
Now, from what I gathered, you know, with that approval, they also said that they want to try to eliminate the predatory lending that's going on in that. So I'm wondering if that temporary approval is so that people can raise capital.
No, that would be awesome. Like,
And that would make sense, because then somebody would have more value to demonstrate to a potential investor.
For sure.
No, definitely. You know, and it's crazy how the government just allows all this, you know, predatory shit go on. It's like legal fucking loan sharking. Yeah.
I mean, bro, are you really saying they allow it, or do they encourage it, bro? Like, these are all the lobbyists. This is lobbyism, if that's a word. This is lobbyism in action.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be a new political party soon. All the lobbyists are gonna be create their own fucking.
It looks like part of the adjustment for the social equity program is the result of fixing lobbying issues. Here's a direct quote from the High Times article. It says, "It's also a somewhat necessary direction. The city is currently dealing with a lawsuit from the Social Equity and Workers Association regarding the city's first attempt at social equity licensing last September. Those suing the city claim some who were hoping to get licenses were able to access the applications first, giving them an unfair advantage." Well, that's exactly what lobbyists do for you. They give you that unfair advantage. So you get rules before everybody else gets rules. You get applications before everybody else gets applications. You get the phone number to the honcho when other people just get the phone number to the secretary. That's what lobbyists do. And this says there's lawsuits about that shit. So I'm hoping they curb that stuff. They need to make it a lot more fair for everybody.
I mean, it's like the VIP line at High Times. You know, people pay extra, they get treated better. This is America. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I've never noticed a huge value of that VIP difference, but I point taken nonetheless.
Well, you've never
people
waited in
still
line to get into High Times ever, Jamie.
People buy those bands like it ain't shit.
Yeah.
Those are the first ones to go because they feel that they're going to get in fast.
Perceived value is different than real value. If you create a whole mystique around this VIP situation, you get a special area to go to, special restrooms. We're going to give you some food at once or twice. There's a DJ. You create all these things that supposedly are perceived value. People are willing to dump an extra hundo for it. But in reality, it's what, another place to sit where you can still just smoke your own cannabis?
And they're like, well, you know what? There was a barbecue there a couple times that had some decent food there. I will say that.
Right.
But generally, what's out there most of the time are like some chips and pretzels and shit like that. And
man,
whatever.
The sponsor booths are some of those sponsor booths totally shit on what High Times gave people for VIP.
The advanced nutrients booth was amazing. It was 2 levels last time with with umbrellas on top. Was that advanced, Jamie, that we were on top of? What was that?
That was advanced, yeah.
Justin Pullen got us up on that, yes. Right.
No, shout out to Church too. Church Cannabis. They had a
they had
crazy
huge
ass
production. Yeah, that's no question about it. Herbal Solutions had a good one.
Yes.
If we're going to say shout out to Church, then I'm obligated to say big shout out to Guilty Pleasures by Millie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Millie's doing her thing. She was one of our first guests on Medical Mondays when I took over. And she's always loved.
Yeah, big shout out to Millie.
She's in the New World licensed world, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because we had those products in our store in the Botanical Company.
Yep.
And you mentioned High Times too. This reminded me, Botanical Company and Russ Chambers were recently in High Times, with Ryan Basor and Redemption, and mentioning a couple other stores, Ohm and Farmhouse.
But talking about the social equity programs and some of the things that are going on here in Michigan surrounding giving back to convicts and people that have been convicted of crimes under the drug war.
Cannabis, yeah.
Yep. Still looking at getting Michael Thompson out of jail. I still can't believe we have to continue to talk about this after all this time.
That was in the letter from Zara to the Attorney General, specifically mentioning Michael Thompson as an example of something that should be done. And COVID, the promises during the campaign to help get these people out, all that kind of stuff.
That letter is actually a letter from members of the Cannabis Caucus directly to the Attorney General and the Governor of Michigan, which aired a list of grievances and says, look, you said you were going to do this and you still haven't made good on that promise. We're reminding you that we're out here and we remember, and let's get at it.
Right. One to the Attorney General and one to the Governor.
Yep. And Zara's on the Cannabis Caucus. I'm on the executive board, I guess the E-board they call it. Jamie's going to be on the executive.
There's a process in place. It's just rebuilding. In fact, they are recruiting along the way. So if people are interested, look out on the Facebook pages and stuff. Rick, do you know where to look? What's going on with that?
And of course, the Michigan Democratic Party Cannabis Caucus has a page that's public, and then there's an executive board page that's private. So the public page people can go to.
Yep, you can get the Zoom link or whatever's going on, and if you want to join.
Yeah, and also, man, like you guys had a pretty awesome show last week with those cats, Zahara, and I forget the other guy's name.
Mike McCurdy, and he was one of the co-founders of the Mid-Michigan Progressive.
Yeah, you guys represented, man. That was a good one.
Thank you for saying so, Roach. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes it's tough when you're doing it to know exactly how good you're coming off. So
no, I thought it was good, man, and I feel like the cannabis community is getting slighted here by politicians in general, where when we were at the beginning of all of this and recently establishing the rules, it seemed like the people had a lot more say in what was going on. Whereas now where, it's kind of like the ball's already bounced out of our court and, they're actively getting tax money from cannabis. It's like, what more do you guys want us to do for you now? Like, just shut the fuck up and take it. And I guess my question is, how do we maintain that influence now that we've lost, quote unquote, the leverage that we had before, which was the tax money that they're getting now?
Well, the tax money and also the votes that they needed in order to put the system in place. With the MMFLA in 2016, the legislature really needed the citizen support because they needed to tell their Republican base, look, I'm voting for this pot business proposal because the people are saying they need to, not because I necessarily believe in it. Fast forward to 2018, now all of a sudden they're like, hey, I really believe in it. We need to have this legalization proposal. So they no longer needed us for approval, but they just needed our votes. Now in 2020, they don't need our votes anymore because there's really no public proposals up. And they've got plenty of input and support from an established industry now. So there's no more of legislators coming to citizen groups and saying, tell me what you need, because they're getting that input from lobbyists representing business groups. So I guess the best thing to do is try and compete on that level, trying to having groups like Americans for Safe Access or NORML or the Michigan Democratic Cannabis Caucus, having that type of an organization to be able to go and talk to these people one-on-one, face-to-face, and say, I don't care what business is telling you, this is what the citizens need. Right, Jamie?
Yeah, it's a shame that the Cannabis Caucus didn't continue to have a presence right after the elections and do kind of a watchdog type thing and maybe speak up as necessary. I mean, it's typical though. I mean, and we were feeling pretty good about things too, and the sense of urgency to do that kind of wasn't there. But now this is a way for there to be a little bit of pressure put on the lawmakers to take one side or the other. And as I asked the organizers too, like how do we do that? How best do we influence? And one of the answers was there's several caucuses out there that are likely willing to come together on several of these individual issues that we'd be interested in, and the strength in numbers and the many different groups and caucuses coming together to make this single point will happen a few times. That's been missing. So how much?
Different caucuses joining with the Michigan Progressive Caucus, the Michigan Young Dems, some of the other similarly aligned caucuses within the Democratic Party, Jamie. That's what you're referring to?
Exactly, yeah. That's that was one of the answers I got in terms of how we're going to approach some of these issues. We're going to work together. And
yeah, man. And like, I think you hit an excellent point there, Jamie. It's like strength in numbers. You know, we as a community, I'll say, also bear a responsibility to represent for ourselves. And I feel like we've also gotten a little bit complacent and just accepting that, you know, you can wake up at 9 a.m. and go get some weed somewhere, you know. Just like with these protests, like peaceful protests when it's a large mass of people, but it seems when the protests aren't as big, then that's when the police start bullying people. Like, I don't know if anybody saw what happened last night in Southwest Detroit, but it's like horrendous.
Roach, you know, those guys busted out the back of that police car window before they took off, right? They assaulted the car and the cops before they.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know the whole story, man. I just saw the cops plowing through a crowd of people.
Yeah, I saw the video too. James Craig was on, that's the Detroit police chief today, and they showed two different dash cam footage from that. And I was initially pretty outraged. And now that I see the situation that the cops were in, I don't see what else they could have done. People were trying to get into the cop car, pulling on the handles, trying to access their physical bodies. He couldn't go backwards, so he had to go forward. But I mean, that's a situation where the protesters, or I don't even want to call them protesters, they were agitators. They really surrounded the automobile and created a situation where there really didn't need to be one. The police were just in their vehicle, not interacting with anyone, and they could have just moved on
like
past.
for real though, like if our police force was actually like fucking on shit, they should have had backup there, no fucking problem. But what the problem is, all the fucking cops are downtown. All the fucking, where all the fucking money is, that's where the fucking cops are. That's how it's always been in Detroit.
That's how it is in Flint too. Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe that particular situation was a bad choice, especially since I didn't know the whole story. I'm gonna have to look.
You're right
into
about
it.
Detroit PD not
but
being
it's still
trustworthy.
Right. It's still a rough, weird situation, man. That's still born of the same problems that.
How do you even let yourself get in that situation either, too? I don't know.
But, you know, because without even having seen the extended video and all of that, I mean, you know, who's to say that the police weren't agitating them to begin with and got them into that state?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I
it
could
goes
totally
both
see
ways.
the police like pulling up into the group, acting all fucking bossy and shit. I can totally see that. I mean, I haven't seen the entire fucking video. I mean, hopefully it's out there and you can see it. But
the video is out there, but sometimes video lies, so you have to listen to what's being said with it. But I don't always trust Police Chief Craig and his analysis of what it says either. So I'd like to keep an open mind on some of that.
I'm sure the dash cams are only showing what they want us to see. Yeah. They didn't show them fucking pull up on them. I'm sure they didn't fucking show them fucking, you know, talking shit out of their fucking like they always fucking do. You know?
All right. Yeah, this is one we're just gonna have to wait and see what the investigation determines. But
I still don't like people being knocked on the ground by police automobiles. There's no good when that happens, regardless of how. That's just a bad end.
Yeah, man. Well, there's some good questions or comments here in the chat. I want to hit a couple of them. One person said they paid for VIP, and when they went to eat, everything was gone.
Oh yeah, it's first come, first serve.
People that are
And,
used to those high times events, they hang around in the lounge there, wait for the food to come in. They just gorge themselves and then go, and everybody else afterwards gets nothing.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I've been at a
Another
few of those
comment-
events with VIP wristband and never been into that area just because I didn't find it to be too worth it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, no, for sure. Fuck BIP. I think it's a consensus. Also, I still have a misdemeanor charge for marijuana on my record. Where's the expungement? Would you guys like to answer that? I mean, I have some information, but in general purposes, what can somebody with, what is it, a non-violent marijuana offense do to get expungement?
You can already have it expunged. That I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can do. We had expungement fairs here in Flint with now Mayor of Flint, Sheldon Neely, back when he was a House representative. And there's a process for it. What they're trying to do now is make expungements a lot easier. Although the bill that they've got proposed to clear up marijuana crimes really doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do and doesn't go nearly as far as it should.
So there's a package of bills for expungement that have passed out of the House that are in the Senate. It's kind of what Rick is referring to. One of them focuses on marijuana. This is just a basic ideas and general understandings of it. There's no legal advice going on here. But if the misdemeanor was like for one of the things that's, legal now by the MRTMA, then that person would be able to at least, if no other avenue, would be able to rely on new laws. And it seems as though they're destined to be passed, although there should be some improvements, and kind of hope that they get some amendments in the Senate that are better before they pass. But what they look like now might be similar to how they pass.
We benefit from it being an election year, and that Republicans in both the House and Senate want to appease their voters. And everybody knows cannabis is populist with the voters, no matter where you're at in Michigan, no matter what age group you're talking about. So they want to do something pro-cannabis. And this is something they can do that doesn't really give a ton of advantage to cannabis users. I wish I felt better about it. Jeff Irwin, Senator Jeff Irwin from Ann Arbor, has a bill that would actually accomplish cannabis expungements the way we think they should be accomplished. But it's very unlikely that the senators will include Irwin's bill in, because they would have to bump the original guy's bill and put Irwin's bill in place, and they just don't do that stuff.
It could just stand to have some amendments too. When we say that it doesn't really live up to its billing, there's it explains that it will expunge for those things that are made legal now by the MRTMA, as I was saying before, with the exception of when somebody was participating in, manufacturing, delivery, and distributing, and or something to that effect. I don't have it in front of me. And the problem is that under the MRTMA, an adult can grow pot, which is manufacturing, can possess it, and then can give it to somebody, distribute it, and that's all okay now. But for some reason, when those things come together, you're not eligible for the expungement. So that's a problem that needs to be fixed at some point. We might have to be into the next session before some things get fixed.
I was in the House. Go ahead, Smoach. Go ahead.
And that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of workshops going on. Some I think are even sponsored by the state through Laura or something. And there's a lot of attorneys that are doing a lot of these expungements as their pro bono work. So reach out to people. If you need some direction, DM the show. We know a couple of people. We can point you in a few directions. If they can do it, they'll get it done for you. That's all I can say.
It's not an easy process, and not everybody that has a crime under the war on drugs qualifies, which is one of the things we hope to have fixed. I was in the House of Representatives when this package of bills was introduced, and the guy who introduced the one particular cannabis expungement bill that we're sort of dissing on a little bit, he says, I didn't really vote yes for legalization, but the people seem to like it, so I wrote a bill, and here it is.
All lawmakers want to be on a bill that passes, just for legacy.
It's very popular, and of course, he's a Republican, so the Republicans are controlling things. They want to get as many of their buddies in on these bills as possible. But what a lukewarm half-assed way to approach a very serious topic. And then after being told in committee by other lawmakers that his bill was pretty inadequate, he did nothing. He didn't suggest any changes. He didn't make any alterations. He just said, nope, this is the way I wrote it. We're just gonna run it through. So there have been a couple of fixes to it, small ones, but the whole point is you garbage in, garbage out. It was a weak bill to begin with. It's hard to imagine, even with amendments, it ever being what we'd consider to be a strong sign of change.
You know, some of the other parts of the bills do some things like instead of only being able to get an expungement if you have one felony on your record, it allows it to happen even if there are two. There are like incremental improvements in a lot of different areas. Overall, it is an improvement, but there's so much more room for being more broad about this. And
other bills in this expungement package automatically expunge crimes. In this marijuana bill proposal, you have to apply for it. You have to actually take action, which is kind of the opposite of exactly what we want with expungement. There are a ton of people that should have their crimes expunged already, but because the process is so complicated, only a small fraction of people who are entitled to that relief actually get it. So we wanted a system that was seamless, that you didn't have to do anything for. That if you were entitled to not have that stain on your ass any longer, then we wipe that stain off your ass, because that's what we're supposed to do for people. But no, now we're going to make them go to Walmart, hunt down some toilet paper, bring it to us, show us their ass and the stain, and then we watch them while they wipe it. It's ridiculous.
You know, we really should have been able to do this under the MRTMA, as long as we didn't exceed expungement for what was being made legal. Theoretically, by advice from many attorneys, that should be the okay. That should be the litmus. You know, you don't exceed this, and it works. But the coalition did hire who is considered to be, at the time he's retired now, the best elections attorney in the state. Also under MI Legalized, we did kind of experience the courts a little bit and weren't too impressed with how our stuff was handled. And so
he's talking about when we crafted the legalization language he's talking about.
Yeah. And we got enough signatures, and we tried to argue that they should be counted, and, you know, we lost, but there are still some constitutional issues there. But nonetheless, we had that issue with the courts, and it was just deemed too risky. It's an issue that's not severable, meaning, you know, if somebody challenges it in the courts and we lose, the whole thing goes down instead of just taking that section off.
We really wanted expungement in the language, but we just couldn't do it because the lawyers told us it could potentially sink the entire thing.
Yeah.
So, and if we were able to include it, then none of this crap regarding cannabis that we're talking about would even be possible. But I still think it was a wise decision to take the more cautious approach. I wanted expungement in there. I wanted a couple things in there that we couldn't end up doing. But yeah, they make the system set up to make it hard to make changes, you know?
Well, you know, and I just want to say though, what was it? Late last year, early this year, we had a sponsor and Michigan cannabis lawyer, Neil Vora. And I know he helped a good handful of people get expungement for their record. And I would just urge people that, yeah, like that system is not perfect, but you can possibly get your shit expunged or not. But either way, you know, I know that like people in the field are compassionate and feel passionate about this issue. So it's not like, you know, getting a lawyer for anything else, you know. Like I said, a lot of lawyers are doing pro bono work as far as this is concerned. So if you need help, if it's really holding you back, I would suggest you guys reach out and give it a shot, because it's better than doing nothing.
And Roach said it, man, there's lots of resources out there. Your state representative can direct you to things if you call them. All this is free, right? Some lawyers charge for expungement, but a lot of attorneys do it, as Roach mentioned, pro bono. If it's dragging you down, get it done, man. use the system to your advantage, because there's a lot of times the system uses you. Why don't you use the system?
Hey, while I'm thinking about it, a week from Thursday on Planet Green Trees, Senator Irwin will be on to discuss the package of expungement bills.
Good
So
deal.
somebody looking out for a little extra info, that might be a time to get it.
Man, I just lit my last joint of Banana OG from Michigan Turk Farms. And if
Yeah.
Michigan Farms is still in here, wink, wink, hint, hint.
Yeah, I mean, big shout out to Michigan Turk Farms. I didn't even say it, man. I just been smoking the fuck out of it. But I mixed some OZ and the Midnight. Oh boy.
I'm sure it sounds fire.
Just like sweet and sour, fucking delicious. But yeah, no, we have a comment here where people are talking about where's the public defenders for these matters? It's just another way for them to take our money. And that's what we're, even though it's not perfect, and if anybody's got criticisms of that, it's Rick and Jamie. But don't let that hold you back, man. Reach out and you can probably get your shit taken care of for next to nothing.
Like I said, Jamie and I participated in an expungement fair with Sheldon Neely, who was a representative at that time. His staff members brought piles of paper, free applications. They were going to sit with people and talk. They brought 2 or 3 folks with them to be able to just work with people that had come there to see what they can do about it. And those guys, once they get involved, they can talk to prosecutors, they can talk to courts, they can do things to maybe get your records expedited quickly so we can verify that you're okay to be expunged, all that stuff. There's people out there actually trying to help you now. And I know that may not be something we're used to, and I certainly wouldn't say it if I didn't think it was true, but I've seen it. I know it's true.
Yeah, Neely had during last session, had a good expungement bill introduced. It really didn't have an opportunity to get through the committee and the whole process to get anywhere, but it was a lot better than what's going to pass now.
And he certainly gave a good speech on the stage at Hash Bash. I was fortunate enough to introduce him because we're both from Flint, but he did a great job. He's been a big supporter of the cannabis industry when he was in the House of Representatives, and he will be as mayor of Flint too. Yep. And his wife took over his House representative spot. I'm not exactly sure how she is with the cannabis issue, but I have to believe that if Sheldon and she have been married for all these years, she's got to be as good with it as he is. I'm hopeful anyway.
Fingers crossed.
Well, unless his use of it has made her hate it.
I don't know.
Man, so we've been all I think the whole world's been politically wound up here. But man, there's been a few little gems that I think we've overlooked in the cannabis world, man. I just want to bring one up now. Did you guys hear about this guy that got caught with a submersible transporting money and fucking weed back and forth from Canada in a submarine?
Yeah. Sub.
Across the Detroit River, trying to go from Windsor into the Motor City. Yeah.
And when they apprehended him, he was swimming through the river with bags of money tied to his waist, like off with ropes.
And he did because his submarine sunk, and he had to bail out and tied the shit to him and tried to swim for his life, and he almost died. He almost died.
I want to see this. I want to see it.
And they fucking they found the submarine on Zug Island, like right off of Zug Island.
Boy,
and I want to say they caught him over by Grosse Ile or some shit.
Boy, Roach, if you're gonna have to be in the Detroit River, I don't want to be out there by Zug Island. That has got to be the worst, most foul.
Well, I mean, if you're in the river, you're getting swept away anyway. Like the current ain't no motherfucking joke.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna make it.
By that big mobile.
That's why people get fucked up in Detroit always end up on Grosse Ile.
There's a dude that just scuba dived or whatever, scuba across the river around the Blue Water Bridge area like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So he was busted.
I mean, come on.
He made it all the way to the other side, and then he was busted.
Okay, Canadians, just let you know, all you Canucks, we got enough pot. Keep it.
I know.
Keep it. We don't need any more. All good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stop trying to bring it across. We're all right. Yep.
That's crazy.
And like, he had already gotten picked up by immigration, and they agreed, like they released him on his own recognizance.
Right.
Hotel in Flat Rock.
I'll stay at the hotel, guys. You could trust me.
What?
Yeah,
What?
they let him go move into a hotel while he was supposedly still under house arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And then he absconded, went back to Canada, got a submarine and a bunch of weed, and said, "I'm going to do it again."
I thought that was just crazy. I know we didn't talk about it on the show, man.
Isn't it fun? Isn't that fun? You know.
So he had more than one sub.
No.
So the first time he drove a truck across a bridge and got stopped by the border cops there, and they caught him with this cannabis. And while they were doing the investigation, they said, "Okay, you're from out of town. We'll let you spend the night in a hotel instead of in jail, and then we'll continue our investigation in the morning." He said, "Thank you very much." And then boogalooed that night, go back across the border secretly. And that's when he got the sub and brought it across. He tried to do it by truck. Am I right, Roach? He tried to do it by truck and then blew it. And then tried the sub afterwards, man. I mean, if you get busted doing the truck thing, I think probably you just stop trying to smuggle at that point. You don't go back to your plan B.
At least give it a break.
I'll get a submarine.
And I'll sneak back to the hotel room and the FBI will never know I did it. Yeah.
Where I just want to see the sub, man. Like, what the fuck was he doing? Like, what?
You can't find the story?
Like, man-made or some shit? Or, like, did they got a picture of this shit?
If they found that sub on Zug Island, they must have a picture.
All right, I'm looking.
That's, you know, there've been people tried to smuggle cannabis over on garbage trucks, which is so disrespectful to the herb. I mean, stop that shit, people. And all kinds of stuff, you know. Coffee. I read one where they put it in, which is supposed to be a way to defeat drug dogs. Just put your cannabis in coffee because the coffee smell overpowers the smell of the cannabis. So, but yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no actual picture of what he was in.
No, that's what I'm looking for. I don't see no picture.
That'd be the best screen share ever if we had a picture of that sub, man.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I'm willing to bet like maybe he built his own submarine. He seems like the kind of guy.
I don't know much about the story. I did hear that it was like this submersible craft, but that it wasn't like a formal submarine per se.
Oh, so it was like one of those little aquajet things.
You know, and I really don't know. I just happened to have heard that during the course of it coming out. I never really looked into it other than like, you know, like chuckling at the novelty of it for a minute or whatever. I don't really know the details, but I did remember catching something like that.
What does make sense? You've seen those little diver assist things, guys, where they it's got a little motor on it. You wear your scuba gear and everything.
Yeah,
and
that's what
you
I'm
hold on
looking
and it powers you like a scooter.
It wasn't like a sub. It was like it's like almost like a jet ski, except
That
it's
makes more sense.
Water. That's what I'm seeing.
I think Jamie's right. I think Berg's right. Yep. So that would explain why he'd have the cannabis already tied to his waist, because he wouldn't tie it to the vehicle. He'd tie it to him as he's motoring along. And then, you know, maybe he forgets to charge it or his USB port is weak or whatever, and it runs out of juice halfway down. And then
this is the picture they're showing.
Drags his ass.
Yeah. See that shit.
That's exactly what you were talking about. You figured it out. Yes.
Awesome.
Man. I would not want to be in the Detroit.
It kept on racking my brain. Like, where did this motherfucker get a submarine? You know,
it still takes a little while to get across, man, doesn't it?
Sharper Image catalog, maybe. I don't know. Submarines in the Sharper Image catalog. But Jamie's right. That's not an easy crossing, man.
And if there's any boat traffic at all, it becomes pretty risky.
And Roach
Oh,
is the current.
And
That's-
like, wasn't there an Olympic swimmer that tried to cross the Detroit River and almost died? Like, the undercurrent is just way too strong because it's not the Detroit River is not very wide. It's only like 2 miles wide, but it's deep as hell. I forget how deep.
You gotta think like how big. I mean, how small the Detroit River is, and it's feeding like from 2 different fucking Great Lakes. It's just fucking shooting.
Yep, that Lake St. Clair is very large, and then it does come into that. They used to call the Detroit River the Straits of Detroit because technically it's not really a river per se because it originates from lake to lake, so it's technically a strait, but they call it the Detroit River for convenience. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be messing around with that shit.
You want to go you want to go on the river walk or the straight walk? Who wants to go on a boring straight walk?
Jamie and I actually have been on a boat that was along the Detroit River with attorney Matt Abel, went all the way under the Ambassador Bridge, came back all the way up to the Lake St. Clair. Was awesome. What is that, Roach? That looks good.
Yeah, what do you got rolled up there, bro?
This is just that OZ, a fat ass OZ wood.
Oh, motherfucking Z.
Shout out Michigan Dirt Farms.
Roach, where's your girlfriend, man? What happened to this ganja gal that was supposed to come on?
That's not my girlfriend, but
I know. I know.
Don't be getting my boy Roach.
He said, but.
Yet. I think that's what he was trying to imply. I'll do your 10 dab challenge. Now I got a challenge for you. Did you hear? Jamie wasn't here. The 10 dab challenge that she was offering. If you do, what is it? 10 dabs with questions in between each dab. Is that it?
Yeah, I've seen like little clips of the show that people have sent me or some shit. I forget how I saw it, but like as soon as she started talking about it, I knew what she was on. But I couldn't tell you what they look like at all. Any of the people. I think it's a guy and a girl.
Interesting. What were the nature of the questions? Do you remember?
Just like where did you come from type of shit.
Not cannabis like knowledge questions, which would kind of be cool for that.
Nah. I think that's boring to most people. People don't want knowledge, Rick.
I know. They want to be stroked. What's up in the chat? Let's stroke some of those people. What's up there?
Yeah, the chat's been popping off tonight, man. A lot of good comments. Let's see. Let me pull it back up.
Damn, shout out to MK up in here. Marijuana in Michigan, smoking on some space runs. What else are people smoking on tonight?
I don't know. My man, Prop One says there's plenty of subs around. Can you get us a Medical Monday sub, bro? We can broadcast from underwater.
I just want a party sub. I got the munchies.
I was surprised. My friend Brad Callio up at Canapalooza had brought an electric motorcycle. And let me tell you, that was super fucking badass. I instantly wanted that right away.
Was it one of those Fiskars or whatever they're called?
Jamie, do you remember? It was
something like that. I don't know. It's on the west side of the state.
Well, it was
company.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
They are pretty sweet.
100-mile range, charges pretty quick.
Yep.
And a lot of torque, like really fast right away.
And you can take it on the expressway, unlike a submarine. So just thinking.
You could take it across the river too.
Wow. All electric motor? I don't know. Maybe you can.
Tie a bunch of cash and cannabis to your waist.
I always wanted one of those cars that you could just pull into the river and drive it.
An amphibious vehicle.
That becomes a boat, yeah.
Growing up, I would watch these little things on TV, and I would just drool over it.
I know, man. They have them, but they're just not very practical.
No.
Novelty, some fun though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I seen these.
Yeah, I need the land, sea, and air edition.
Did you see the? They have a. It's like a 4-wheeler that turns into a fucking jet ski. And that shit is fucking gangster.
A good one.
You just pull up on my hand and fucking.
The quads that you put a ski on and can use then in the winter too, or something like that. Go back and forth for trails all year.
Yeah, man, there was so much technology that they taunted us with that just isn't practical at all.
Yep. At least not yet. Maybe in the future, but
man, they got so much shit, man.
Battery technology. Once the batteries get fixed where they can store more energy in a lighter weight, that opens up all kinds of stuff. Jamie's very much into these gyrocopters, these self one guy vehicles that take off.
Paramotor,
right? And those
I've yet to do it, but I'm going to as soon as I can.
Be even
okay. I was about to say, Jamie, you out here like that?
Not yet, man. I mean, I'm gonna at least take a ride first and see if I have some tolerance.
Bro,
looks like a lot of fun, man. The average age of people getting into it, 55. It's a midlife crisis.
We need
event,
this
man.
might be the perfect delivery system for a Berg bomb.
Oh,
for a
I
what?
love it.
Berg bomb, man.
A bird a fire?
Actually do this.
Berg, B-E-R-G,
a Berg bomb. I'm
you
sorry.
bomb
I'm
them
sorry.
with cannabis and everybody gets all irate.
Right. That's all good. I've internalized that as Berg droppings. Just personally.
Wow. Always got to go to the scatological, don't you?
That'll be the mission name. Mission Bird Droppings. Code name Bird.
I don't know. It might even be in the next summer, but I really want to do it. If anybody's interested, you can look it up on YouTube and check it out.
It'll be the real Buzz Aldrin.
You run into the sky.
But again, that's another one of those things where if you had lightweight battery power instead of a giant engine, with a finite amount of fuel there, you could potentially go a lot longer, a lot farther. That would be more practical. Cars would be lighter, it'd be easier for us.
We're talking about all this shit. I think it's kind of selfish talking about like one person shit. Why don't we have fucking bullet trains in this bitch? This whole fucking country could be fucking fuck airplanes.
You know, this would have been
you know how much fuel is wasted in air travel
and how much shit that puts in the atmosphere.
This last term would have been great in the federal government to work on infrastructure and address all types of stuff like that. But there's too much conflict and nothing really has been getting done the last couple
You
of
couldn't
years.
even get the Q line right. You know, a lot of people are not happy with the Q line in Detroit. What do you guys think?
Man,
Bro,
have you
it's
been on that thing?
another fucking
I never
toy
have.
train up in this bitch. It's another toy train. It's like fucking goes.
It goes
nowhere.
nowhere.
What are the hours on that bitch?
I want to say it goes until like 3 a.m.
Still fucking lame as fuck.
It's essentially like a trolley with a track. You know, we used
But
to
it
have
goes
trolleys in
nowhere.
Detroit.
Oh, trolleys were fucking shut down, man. Like the whole fucking, we're supposed to be the motor city. Everybody needs to get a car type shit. You know?
Well, look, there's a ton of people that go Amtrak between Detroit and Chicago. If you look at all along the Mississippi River, all those big Des Moines, Iowa, and Fort Wayne, Indiana, all those cities along the river, you could have a bullet train that goes along some of these big places. I-75 goes all the way from the Upper Peninsula all the way down to the tip of Florida. You could have a bullet train that ran parallel to that.
They have all kinds of maps already set out, like you know, shit that actually makes sense. You know, a total infrastructure if like the government actually implemented it. Because it would have to be the government that does that shit. No private company, unless it's
That's
Tesla.
where all the police funding goes.
Right. Why would they want to get, you know, actual like flightless travel?
Well, it sounds like that's more than the police budget. But Jamie, you were just talking offline earlier about Bernie Sanders' program, defund the military by 20%. And what else could we get for that?
I think he said 10%. and exactly what, I don't know, but he would, to be honest with you, but many of the things that are kind of being exposed now that would be necessary as support for people, social safety nets, healthcare, a lot of things that are even pretty expensive, with just a sliver of what is going to the defense budget now could handle it. So
if you look at the United States budget, it's a big budget, and most of it's military, and then a little bit of this, and then the budget is this little teeny tiny sliver that we fight over these curmudgeons. But there's this really big chunk that goes to the military, and this really big chunk goes to government operations that are just untouchable.
Tax the people and leave the corporations alone, and
right,
we got a lot of shit backwards.
Well, there's an opportunity for us to fix things. By the way, did you guys see some of the news headlines from, I think, just today? Donald Trump is pissed off at all this polling and how everybody hates him, and he might just drop out of the election and just roll over and give it up to
we could
get the fuck out. Well, I mean, you're James Carville the other night, and if you know about that, he just goes, people don't want me to say it, but he's going to lose. He's going to lose big. He's got no chance, stuff like that. Maybe the writing's on the wall now, and he'd rather step down than get his ass kicked.
If you quit your job, you were never fired. Okay. I know a lot of people that know that the axe is coming, and they just quit so they don't have to endure the embarrassment of being terminated from their position. And Donnie seems like the kind of guy that would just quit and not show up the next day. I don't know. It seems a big stretch because he's got so much ego involved in this position. I can't imagine him just walking away.
He's had lots of good reason to already kind of take it upon himself to step down, but he has not. So why would he now? But maybe this is big enough. Maybe really believing he would lose big and have to deal with that kind of humiliation would be something he'd want to avoid. He can blame it on the Democrats and all types of shit, and then
there's a lot of right-wing media outlets that have popped up during the last 3 years. He certainly would be able to make millions of dollars just being a commentator or having his own show on one of these networks, and it would draw tons of people. If he was looking for a life after presidency, he could sure do it, man. He's,
if he sticks around, he might be getting indicted.
I know the Southern District of New York's got some questions about his reporting of finances to the city and also his business dealings too. So,
and obstruction of justice. I mean, many people believe they sidestepped the Mueller report. It didn't become an immediate issue because of the way they inappropriately and unethically handled it. But the reality is there's a lot of damning stuff there, including a lot of evidence of Trump obstructing justice.
I mean, what do you expect from a guy who talks out of his fucking ass, man?
He does, but here's the thing to remember, though, Bert. Look who he's picked, right? He picked for Attorney General William Sessions. That guy hates cannabis. And then when he fired Sessions, he got William Barr in there. And we just recently learned that William Barr interfered in some applications approvals for mergers and acquisitions within 10 different particular business transactions in the cannabis industry. And he interfered in those 10 because he hates the cannabis industry and doesn't want it to be successful. So the two guys that he entrusted to his DOJ both hate THC. So FTG, right? Fuck that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, fuck them all, man.
It's hard to have faith. It's hard to have faith if we see examples of bad behavior.
Like, this system is like built to fail. It's crazy that it's like lasted this long. The whole fucking election processing and all this shit. It's like, it's crazy.
When Roach kicks back like that, it's because he's got something to say. Roach, what's on your mind, man? I know
don't
you
have
do.
anything to say, man. You guys are saying it all.
I remember from years ago, Berg saying, fuck them all. He's always been saying that.
Was he at a strip club when he said that, though? 'Cause what do you want to do, Berg? Fuck them all.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's the answer, though.
We haven't had a good, like, man. I don't even want to get into it right now.
I mean, just real quick, I'll just say it, man. Like, as a country, as a society, like, we need to re-examine what the fuck we're living for and what we feel is right. Because I think it's definitely changed. Like, we're all just still human, but at the same time, you know, a lot has changed as far as technology, as far as people's influence and power over others. We really need to get a new system in place and to keep everything in check, just like it had to be done before.
I think our give a shit has been eroded as a society. We're pulverized. If on Monday you see a terrible story and it really sticks to you and it gets in your heart, then Tuesday you already got 5 news stories that have already pushed that one out of your mind. Instead of letting it sit there and be significant to you and then maybe inspire within you action over time. Now we're in such a media friendly society that we just don't give a shit like we used to. And when we stop caring about the stories about others, we stop caring about others.
Yeah, no, I mean, people have stopped caring about themselves.
For me, it's like, you know, for many of years, it's like, why the fuck am I going to give a fuck about a system that definitely don't give a fuck about us? It's all about profit. It's this motherfucking country is a corporation now. Like, basically fucking everything's for profit. Like, education don't mean shit anymore. All the money's going into fucking prison still after all this fucking, you know, drug reform and you know, it's so fucking depressing, bro. Especially, like, you know, I thought Obama was going to get into office and actually do some shit. Like, I had hope. He was just a big fucking disappointment for me. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Cole memo 1 and 2 and the other memo really stopped people from trying to shut down state-based cannabis programs.
And Colorado got to get up and running because they laid off them.
Right. I mean, there was a lot
I agree, though. There's a lot of holes in the whole thing. But go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Still a lot of expungement didn't take place. A lot of federal change didn't take place. He made it more permissible for states to have their programs. And after 8 years of Obama, I don't think anybody could ever shut down state-based programs right now. Even if Trump wanted to shut them down tomorrow, they're too melded into the communities now to take it away. So, but
I don't know.
Sessions found out pretty quickly that there was not support in Congress for his crusade against cannabis and trying to peel back the progress made so far.
You know, and I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the personalities that are attracted to politics in that way, where they want to ascend to power and, you know, have charted it since childhood.
Type A personalities, it's a family thing. We've always been in politics, blah, blah, blah. You know.
Like, I feel like the people that have the best outlook on what our societal standards should be are never the people that are in the power to enforce it, or, you know, even
straight up, like, if
create the legislation to begin with.
George W. would have never been a fucking president if it wasn't for his fucking daddy.
No question.
No
and you know what?
fucking way.
And Mother Teresa couldn't get elected dog catcher in the United States of America. She would have been so pure and so straightforward with her beliefs, no one would have ever elected her for anything. So some of the best people to make judgments about humanity and what our direction should be going forward don't have a chance in our system. It's true. Yep. So I guess the only way to fix it, though, is to get into the system and fix it from inside. What we've seen, we've forced some changes. We've forced some changes, but the only durable way to do it is like Justin Amash, man. when Justin Amash, House Representative from the state of Michigan, Republican, when he got sick and tired of Trump, he said, "Fuck you, I'm becoming a libertarian," and left the party. That's a stud in my mind. That's a guy who really stands up for his beliefs.
And he spelled out
affiliation, probably going to lose his reelection because of it.
He spelled out just after the Mueller report why there was a case for impeachment based on that. That's not what Trump was ultimately impeached for, but when he was leaving, he was also describing how the information was so damning that just for what's in it alone should be grounds for impeachment.
So individually, I see examples of integrity. I see Yusuf Rabi, I see Jeff Irwin, I see people that I can admire in politics. But then I see the Senate Majority Leader who openly insulted this female reporter by suggesting that this whole crew of boys from the school could have real fun with her because she's a cute little thing. And instead of apologizing or making up for it, he just doubled down and said, "No,
that's Lucido."
Yeah,
that's what fucking politicians do.
Yeah,
Pete Lucido's a weirdo. I mean, he's done some things constitutionally, and he was the person who introduced the bill that ultimately lifted forfeiture stuff for amounts of value of 50,000 or under certain circumstances or something. It was a move ahead. He's a former criminal defense attorney, but very, very bizarre guy. He's not the Senate Majority Leader. I believe Shirky is.
Well, Shirky's who I was it?
I think it was Lucido who did the inappropriate stuff with the reporter.
Okay.
Sorry, Master.
Bizarre.
And like,
bizarre shit.
You know, we were talking about
Biden sniffing everybody. What's up with that?
That's what I was gonna say, man. Like, politicians right now are mad fucking creepy. This whole Pizzagate thing, it seemed like it might have just been like some propaganda smear campaign, some kind of political hate. But
there's been several investigations on all that shit, and nobody has anything substantive. So I mean, tell somebody produces
really
real people have looked into it and got nothing.
They're talking really weird in those emails, man.
Well,
for sure,
like, you know, I get nobody found anything. I get nobody wanted to commit suicide, you know. That's how I take that.
Speaking of committing suicide, look into that guy from prison that supposedly killed himself but didn't, Jeffrey Epstein. When you take a look at the 2016, there was a lawsuit alleging Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had been on Epstein's island or Epstein's property in New York, and the things that were alleged that they did with these underage girls was pretty fucking heinous. If you were Donald Trump, you did not want that getting out.
Clinton was over there too several times.
I only read the article. I only read the court case from Donald Trump with Epstein. I don't know if anybody's ever charged Clinton with anything.
Well, no, but I know you saw that picture, the painting of Clinton in a dress, in the Monica Lewinsky dress, smoking a cigar.
I did not see that.
Oh man, pull that shit up, Bert.
And we think this is authentic from someplace.
I don't know if I like. I never personally verified or anything.
It's supposedly from inside the Epstein Island compound.
I know that there's some record of Clinton being on an airplane with him 20 sometimes or something like that. I'm not sure if the destination was always this island, and then if they did go there, what they actually did. But Clinton seemed so pure that I doubt he would like do anything that was too outrageous.
It's non-bipartisan creepiness.
You know, that's why women are screaming, "Hey, we need somebody like Dana Nessel." Remember her commercial? I don't have a penis, so I'm probably not gonna, you know.
Yeah,
all those problems.
You know, people are motivated right now. They're in the streets about this police brutality. Man, this is the next issue. People need to wild the fuck out over this fucking kid shit. Like, children matter too, a lot.
Yeah. Child Protective Services in Michigan is really bad. this whole Bethany Christian Services that they connect with, that essentially, and I hate to put it in this way because it simplifies a very complex situation, but they essentially courts sell kids to the adoption agencies, taking children away for cannabis use and cannabis possession because exactly, Roach, because people don't have enough bread to pay their bills. They come in and they think it's an unsafe environment for a child to grow up in, and they suck those kids away and you never get them back.
Right. And like 9 times out of 10, they're not going someplace better.
Right.
Like, you know, if you're recognizing that a child is in crisis and needs help, you would think you would want to put the kid someplace better. But 9 times out of 10, it ain't.
When there's a profit motive involved, then there's always going to be a question of whether it's legitimate or not. In this case, we know there's a profit motive, but we also have story after story after story of real people whose kids were zapped out of their lives, and who fought a system and could never get them back, or took forever to get them back. And by the way, when you get taken up by the system for a year, you're not the same kid when you come back, though.
Like, I've heard plenty of stories where, you know, kids get put into the system and they end up literally dead. That's so fucked up. Like, the system did that
right
too.
Like somebody's like almost like slave quarters, just housing them for the check and shit.
And
man, America, like that's what I'm saying, man. I hope this is the start of it. I hope the ball just keeps rolling and gets bigger and bigger, because there's a lot of issues I feel like we need to get in order before we move forward, before we can move forward.
See,
because, like I said, we're here because of technology, and it's only advancing. And if we can't get this morality shit in order, because like everybody feels justified in doing all the bullshit that they do, and like the community respects them because they're doing shit that's legal. Not things that are right, not things that are moral, but things that are legal. So, you know, when they choked my man out over it selling cigarettes, that was legal.
What do we do?
There's the list goes on and on.
See, some people see that whole list of grievances that we have, the whole list of areas where government needs to be fixed, and they get paralyzed. They're like, the problem's too big, I can't handle this all, and they just detach. And then they're like, fuck the government, I don't even want to talk about it, right? But what people need to do is to kind of specialize. Find one area of social justice that you would like to have changed more than anything else, something that really matches your passion. Focus on that and work towards that. That's why we can have activists being successful with Black Lives Matter while we're also successful with hemp, while we're also successful, you know, advocating for environmental issues, Line 5's being shut down. Because there are specialist activists in each one of these fields, progress can be made by individuals simultaneously. If you're the guy that tries to do everything because you're passionate about all these causes, you'll never accomplish anything on your own. And it's difficult for you to make any group accomplishment because you're jumping from topic to topic. So as a cannabis law reform advocate, I've advocated for a lot of other things, Flint, clean water, did a lot of things with safety, but I try to stay in my lane because that's where my expertise lies. I think other people should do the same.
You know, I agree with you. But at the same time, you know, all of those issues are connected, because it's like that same thread of indifference and profit that run through all of them.
Profit. That's the word right there. If it was a way to take that profit motive out of the system, we would, I mean, it won't be instantaneous, but that would be the key to starting to move towards a system that's more favorable to the individual and less based on some artificial money motive. No more policing for profit, no more child abduction through adoption procedures for profit, no more healthcare for profit, so people can go into the doctor and actually get fixed up without having to worry about what it costs, and then waiting too long and then being told, sorry, sir, if you came here 6 months earlier, we could have fixed your cancer, but now you're going to die. And all
Yeah,
because you
and,
didn't
like,
have the bread for it,
the
right?
Flint shit, the fine should be way more expensive than the cleanup. And the reason why it's still there is because the fine is cheaper than the cleanup. So why?
Yep.
It's like, what's the fucking motivation?
Here's my thing too. If you're one of those people that needs to pay an offsetting fine in order to compensate for your pollution, you're probably a company I don't really want to have in my community. And there's a need society has for the product that you produce. If you fail, some other motherfucker will come up and take that place because that's what business does. It finds a need and it fills it. And we can make sure that they start over in a way that's healthy for my community. I don't need to embrace companies that pollute, companies that drain water out of the Great Lakes Basin at millions of gallons a day to fill into Aquafina bottles and send all over the place. And what do they pay? But like $1,000 a year for the rights to that well, something like that.
Man, what company was that said that fucking water, clean water, isn't a right?
Nestle.
Fuck them motherfuckers.
That's the
Mountain Ice or whatever it's called.
It's
that shit that comes
Like,
out
you
of it.
know, I think we fuck up ourselves even because we keep saying that the Flint problem, we should just call it the Nestle problem, the Nestle water problem.
Well,
you know how much they're probably profiting off of the Flint fucking shit. Like, it's crazy.
And that's the juxt of it all is like, whatever your issue is, don't ask for reform. Don't ask for community involvement. Ask to make that the fine more expensive, and that's where you'll start to see change.
When you hit a business at its bottom line.
If bad cops were expensive, there'd be less bad cops.
Yep.
Do the cleanup and charge them for it.
Yeah, if the cleanup was or the fine was more expensive than the cleanup, they would do the fucking cleanup.
Here's my thing. If you make a supervisor responsible for the cop underneath them's errors, that supervisor doesn't tolerate cops that are likely to get him fucked up. So if you say, all right, supervisor, if your cop his gun clears leather and it's proven to be a bad deal, or if he manhandles one of these people and it's proven to be a bad deal, we're gonna punish you. We're gonna dock you some cash because cash is the only thing that people respect anymore. And we're gonna demote or whatever. You'll have a punishment. He's not gonna let anybody on his squad manhandle any people.
Retirement. I want that shit coming out as retirement.
Yeah.
That's where you're gonna see him fucking jump through the hoop.
Officer,
if you brutalize somebody, if you have more than 3 complaints from citizens against you that even got I think we need a new definition of guilty.
Bro, the unions alone need to be fucking thrown out and fucking totally redid. You know, all these fucking police unions that get these fucking, all these bad cops to stay on the force, keep their job, just give them vacation and, still pay them, right?
I don't think that a union is bad in itself, man. I think that unions are actually great, but they are at the will of this system. And what's good for their retirements is the on-duty cops hitting their quotas. Who's hitting their quotas? These fucking asshole fucking
quotas.
racist
Another fucking thing. They should never have no fucking quota for anything. What if motherfuckers are out there not breaking the law? Oh, they're just supposed to create it, and so that's what they do. That's just
police unions negotiate with individual cities. Now, here's what happens. In Detroit that the churches, they're very powerful. If you're a city councilman and you want to get reelected, you don't piss off the church people, because those churchgoers they'll protest against you. They'll come out in force. In effect, the churchgoers really have a big difference on what happens at city council. Same thing with the police. When the police say, look, we want all of these freedoms in our contract, and your local city council guys go, no, man, that's too much freedoms. The police are like, we'll protest against you. If you're being hostile to the badge, you're not going to get reelected. And with that same whooping stick, the police beat those local city councils into giving them pretty much whatever deal they want to have. Now, that means we've given those folks a lot more negotiating privileges than they probably should have had. And we got to scale that stuff back. But Roach touched on something that's important. We need a definition of citizen complaint that doesn't rely on guilty or not guilty, because the supervising cop can always find you not guilty because of some fucking technicality. What I'd like to see is a report that says credible, not credible, and then action taken. If you were supposed to have said a racial slur to somebody and we found out that you did say a racial slur, but because of your union rules, you can't be punished for it, that might just go away, right? But no, if that citizen complaint was found to be credible, even if there's no guilt associated with it, it should still be labeled and stuck with your ass forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just don't, it bothers me when police officers do bad things and it doesn't hound them. Because when we as citizens do bad things, all of our actions hound us forever.
A brand of an L on the forehead, second offense.
Our lien files, I mean, shit, you know what lien is. That's a law enforcement information network. That's the computers the cops have in their cars. They know everything, man. That stuff is ridiculous, the amount of detail they've got on everything you've ever done, all your shit. And yet we can't make them wear body cameras. We can't know when they've had citizen complaints against them because it might prejudice the community against that particular officer.
I think police cars should have multiple cameras fucking facing every which way. They don't get a chance to fucking even turn them bitches off. It's all fucking interconnected. As far as the fucking chest cam, they should fucking, that bitch should be on fucking their whole shift.
It should be a civil infraction if they turn that body cam off. They should have to pay a fine if they turn that shit off.
Well, here's the thing, man.
But even worse than that, if it's during an investigation, they turn it off and search stuff.
Yeah, it's a crime. Obstructing.
Right now, like we're talking about, domestic issues, but I think to really get a handle on what's going on, as far as police brutality, why is this so prevalent, across the country in all 50 states? Why is this happening? And it's because in those same 50 states, they get kids and they break them and they send them overseas to fight for oil. And when they come back here, some of the people here look like some of the people there. So they're just already in that mode. And what we ask them to do is a great sacrifice. We have holidays about it, more than one, and they deserve respect. But there's no process for reintegration. The military definitely has spent time and energy in developing a good program of boot camp for getting men and women prepared to lay their lives down and mainly stay alive in fucked up situations, and how to take on targets as opposed to humans. But I don't think that they have such care and intent when it comes to reintegrating them into society. So we've created these bastions of the police and aren't militarizing it and making them feel more, comfortable with what they've been turned into. And they're out here on the streets dealing with domestic issues as if they were still on foreign soil. So it's big. It's big what we're asking here. And trying to just label it as racism, I don't think it's that deep. There is a lot of racism, and I think, it can be cultivated like any other thing. But yeah, it's kind of weird that a lot of these people go and serve in countries and then where they're brutalizing brown people, and they're ordered to brutalize brown people and black
cops
people,
that
and then they come back here and do the same thing. I don't think that's just a coincidence.
Even for the police that aren't fucking military, though, you know what I'm saying? Like, I forget which county it was, but like, for one of their things in order to become a sheriff and like go out on the streets as a sheriff, you had to fucking work in the prison for 2 years. So that's their fucking. They're supposed to fucking deal with people already in prison, and then they're gonna go out to the real world, and that's how shit's supposed to fucking help. Like, how is that? I don't know. It just blows my fucking mind.
Berg, that sounds like you're giving that guy a real bad attitude about humanity before you ever let him out on the streets to try and deal with people in a rational way. That seems like setting him up for failure, man. What a program.
Yeah, no, and like, you know, it's no secret that the entire police force is a giant pissing contest. So, you know, when somebody comes back and he's seen some action and he's bragging about how he was busting skulls and blah, 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 you mean to tell me these little rookie guys aren't trying to, you know, do the same shit and like learn and be and emulate that shit? Like I said, we look up to these guys.
Right,
So
two of those
real-
guys in Minneapolis were rookies.
Yeah. Well, the real problem here is that, like Roach said, when veterans come in, we don't have anything for them to do. So there's a big, large pool of unemployed veterans. And if you're a police chief and you're looking for someone to hire, here's somebody who already has weapon skills, already knows how to follow orders. That might look like an easy get to you. But what we really should have is more psychological testing of people before we bring them in, and a different parameter of what we think makes a good officer. We also need non-engagement policies. Like when people run, you don't engage in a police chase in an urban setting. Doesn't matter what that motherfucker did. It's not worth chasing him at 75 miles an hour down Woodward Avenue while people are not able to get out of your way in time. It doesn't matter what they did. Let them go. We'll get them later.
You know, the biggest thing in Southwest was like the car chases from downriver. That shit was crazy. And they'd always be a suburbanite police coming into the fucking hood.
Somebody's trying to flee the police by using the city of Detroit as thinking that there's some alleyways or some back ass way that they can ditch the cops. There needs to be non-engagement. When someone starts to run away, unless they have a gun and they're threatening to kill someone starts to run away, disengage, man. We'll get them. We'll get them later. You don't need to have a big violent confrontation at that point. My man, you know, I can't breathe. He started to run. He didn't want to be arrested for drunken driving. First of all, he's now running. He's no longer driving. So best right now, he's just a drunk guy in public who's afraid. So you can let the man run. Let him go. He's trying to break your restraint. Let him go. You don't have to put Floyd Green on the ground and put your knee on his neck. That should have stopped before it even got to the physical stage. Because at that point, he's not really a threat anymore. Let the guy go.
No, like, first of all, like, we're just talking about instances that we've caught on film.
Yeah.
Imagine all the shit that we haven't even seen.
It's
that
way
we'll
worse.
never see. You know? Like, what about all these fucking people, like, around, like, the country hanging? They've been hung. And then they're saying, oh, yeah, it was suicide. And then the FBI fucking is actually looking into a fucking mannequin being hung. You know, a mannequin with a fucking pig face on, dressed up as a police. The FBI is looking into this. How about the fucking 5 people that have been lynched?
Yeah,
throughout the
and
country?
like we said, they've been reviewing all the footage and finding looters that have been doing damage to fucking government property and all of that using dash cams and surveillance and social media and all kinds of shit. But they can't seem to get down to solving these fucking hangings.
I know.
I mean, it's a lynching. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
Here's what bothers me about the move to try and stop chokeholds. I mean, that sounds good, right? We're going to stop chokeholds. But if we take a look at all of the interactions African Americans have with police, right? And then there's some that don't get this far, and there's some that don't get this far, and then some they never even put their hands on you, some you never even get arrested, some that's not this. And then only this little teeny tiny bit does it actually involve fucking chokeholds. But yet, there's disrespect every level at this entire scale of stuff. So when you focus on just the chokeholds, you're focusing on just this tiny little sliver of all of these police interactions and trying to pretend like racism doesn't happen during all those other encounters. That's why chokehold ban good, but not sufficient, man.
No, not the complete story. It's a way to immediately stop deaths in a common way that they occur. Something like 1 out of every 1,000 black men get shot by the police, or something like ridiculous like that. I just heard. I mean, that should be checked out to, see what the actual numbers are. But it's something absurd like that.
I think that is between people between 18 and 31 or something like that for a particular age group. But by our own government, gunned down by our own government. If another nation came in and shot 1 out of 1,000 of anybody, what would we do? Mobilize the fucking tanks. That's what we do.
Yeah, I saw, another unclear statistic, but back to about things being legal. But it's legal for police to have intercourse with somebody that's in custody in a few states here in America.
The things that are still on the books, the stupid ass laws, fuck.
And I don't mean in jail, just in custody.
Right. They usually leverage themselves and do that, but the argument is that it was consensual. There's nothing that prohibits it. And really stupid and twisted and abusive.
It really makes you wonder, what was the mindset of the people that created these laws at that time? How did they justify these particular things? And how deeply did the cops have their hand up the ass of the administration officials to just get whatever the hell they wanted out of it at that point?
The immunity thing caused a lot of problems, and also in the behavior of police, like if it hasn't been addressed, then they get away with it.
I've seen in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, when members of the Michigan State Police or local units testify, they're given a great deal of respect and deference, and what they say is just accepted by those lawmakers as absolute fact. When I'm sitting there going, bullshit, and then I actually tell them what was said was bullshit, and it still doesn't matter. They still kiss the cop ass. It's really deep in our system. It's one of those areas we were hoping Dana Nessel would help us reform.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a catch-22. Someone, if we're going to call it the police, deserves respect if they've taken on the responsibility and the duty of protecting and serving the community.
Yep, respect it.
Okay, so I get that level of influence. I respect it. But what are they using it for? For what means? Like you said, what is the intention? And is it to protect and serve?
See, guys in those same uniforms told them the drug war was justified. Guys in those same uniforms told them cannabis was killing kids. Guys in those same uniforms told them lies time and time again about cannabis. But now
they came to our school and showed us a suitcase and introduced us to all the different dope and told us how much it weighed and cost, and gave us a whole.
They're like, do your parents have this at their home?
Have you ever seen this little vial with this little stuff in it, right?
Yeah, man.
And where do you live? On Maple Lane?
They had a plastic layout. I know what you're talking about, Roach.
Right. Bro, that shit was harder than an E40 track. Yeah. The only thing they didn't do was teach us how to cook crack.
It was practically what was that? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It was that basically
instructional, huh?
Bro,
yeah,
I swear.
I remember something like that when I was going to school in Monroe.
If those nuns knew how to cook up crack, they definitely would have showed us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, Roach made the point many times tonight, and it's never been more poignant than right now. This is a multifaceted problem. This is a big deal. It's not one single switch that can be turned on and off. We're talking about, in order to fix the system, many moving parts that all have to be making positive progress. I mean, one of the things we can do right away would be to deschedule cannabis federally. Jamie and I talk about this all the time. You take it right off the schedule of controlled substances. Now, the driving thing fucking goes away. The pot thing and social work goes away. Pot thing and employment, it goes away. All of these things get solved. Maybe not expungement, but all of these things going forward with just that one fell swoop, we solve so many issues. And then we can, after that's done, then we can clean up. Then we can work on all these other little things that we still have to take care of too.
We can do the descheduling in our own state too. We have our own controlled substances list here. That would be very helpful.
And there is both a lawsuit and perhaps a bill to deschedule cannabis already. Doesn't look like that's getting anywhere, but that's one action that would immediately make a big difference on so many different fronts, positive difference on so many fronts. And it's such a contradiction. Berg, I mean, medical cannabis means that there's medicinal properties to cannabis. And Schedule 1 says no medicinal properties. Schedule 1 is a lie.
Oh, definitely.
So we gotta fix it. And what's the easiest way to fix it? Just take that shit right off the list.
And you know what's interesting is that on Michigan, it's also a Schedule 2, and it says, you know, cannabis when being used medically.
Yeah.
No change in I mean, the complete contradiction. You know, right there. The
Hey,
next
look at
line.
my Schedule 2. I got a
That's
med card, so that's Schedule 2 right there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody needs to realize it's like still federally illegal. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. That hasn't stopped anybody from doing hardly anything other than the 280E thing when it comes to declaring expenses from cannabis businesses. California, Michigan, Colorado, Washington, name the state. They're just proceeding with cannabis as if it's not federally illegal. So how are we supposed to respect that rule when state government agencies themselves don't respect it? Fucking contradiction.
It's slow moving, but we are kind of continuously moving in the right direction here.
What do you got there, Roach? What is that?
It's a glass packer.
It's a new it's almost essential for rolling if you roll without a roller.
Yeah, backwood tool.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. There's awareness. I feel like there's a sense of community amongst us in the nation. I just hope that this keeps growing.
Speaking of community, what's up in chat? We got some more remarkable stuff. Anybody posting pics lately?
Oh man, I'm getting stoned. I forgot about the guys in the chat. Here I come. Hold on. They were those motherfuckers were spitting earlier. Hold on.
They're talking about their family being served.
I was in Lansing this weekend. Actually got some really good cannabis and came across Big P. Pablo.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I haven't seen him in a minute.
Yeah, people are talking about people that they know that have served, some people that didn't come back. You know, man, salute. That's like the biggest sacrifice.
And then when they come back, we don't treat them with the respect they deserve. We don't help them find houses. We don't help them find jobs. Maybe we give them some money to help them through college, but I mean, the GI Bill itself seems like a good idea, but I think it's inadequate for what we're trying to accomplish, which is really, you know, showing the respect to those people that served. We could do more. And the VA should look like the Mayo Clinic, man. The VA hospital should look like the snazziest, you know, West Bloomfield private institute hospital. We should be treating veterans like that instead of just making it, you know, the upper crust elite.
Being open for them using cannabis,
They could
obviously.
do this. They could do this with less than 1%, less than 1% of the military budget per year. They could literally do it.
They talk about one less battleship. There was always this thing when I was in school about one less battleship. If the military didn't build one battleship, the money from that particular construction that they saved would fund schooling throughout the entire nation for 10 years or something like that. It's just a monstrous amount of money that's spent on military hardware for an army that's already the number one on the planet.
What's that one jet that they haven't even built yet? It's like fucking they already put like $270 billion into the design, and they haven't even like built one yet.
See, that's a lot of engineers making a lot of careers out of not producing anything, right? What about Space Force? Do we feel like we need to spend a couple $1 billion on Space Force so we can?
I think that's one of the only like remotely kind of like cool things that Trump has done.
Space Force.
I don't know, man.
Lasers and
what the fuck are we gonna do in
space
space?
shuttles. We're gonna have laser wars eventually with like the Chinese and stuff.
Right, man.
Urinate on Chinese satellites.
Hey, I like the Space Force Netflix show.
Yeah, that's pretty funny with Steve Carell. Yeah,
I've not seen that. That sounds.
There's a lot of really big actors and great talent in that show.
Oh, it's pretty fucking funny. I like it.
There's a lot of things going on right now that are incredibly serious, and we really should pay attention to. But there's a lot of ways to sort of take it easy and have a laugh too. You can't feel guilty about unwinding a little bit. We use cannabis to unwind, but a good movie, you know, a nice dinner, you know, some time outside. Those are things you need to do.
Any single ladies out there, holler at my boy Rick Thompson. Show them your taco meat.
Rick Taco Meat.
Oh no, you gotta just tease it. You can't show it off. Just tease it. All right, so
yeah, Rick's inviting all the single ladies for a full body tanning session.
Actually, I have a couple of really cool events coming up. I could use a partner, you know, somebody who matches my energy level, right? You know, so DM Berg, don't do that, dude. No, Berg, Berg the pimp.
Not no middleman.
He was enjoying thinking about you in action, man.
Yep.
Berg, you're Heidi Fleiston over there, bro?
The Chamberlain Madam. He's Chamberlain Ave, baby. Chamberlain Madam.
Hilton.
Matchmaker.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Oh, so much fun, man. I love these Monday night shows. It's just nice to have really good conversation and be able to just crack right fucking up.
Yeah.
We talk about some deep stuff too, so we need a little humor every once in a while.
What kind of deep stuff are you guys going to be talking about tomorrow on your show?
We're supposed to have a guest from National Normal. Normal's put out a new training program trying to help activists become more skilled at the modern techniques of how to properly lobby your legislators. So do what we talked about, more citizen input to government. And they've got a whole new module that's out, and she's going to come on and talk about it. Jen Michelle Piandini.
You have this confirmed, or at least in position to be confirmed?
I'm just saying it. It might happen.
Okay, that would be very cool. That would be very good. But we do have for sure. I'm sorry. For sure, we do have I think for the 4th or 5th week in a row, a state house candidate. And tomorrow we will have another one, Reggie Davis.
a candidate for office. Denise Kirchhoff's not for state house. She's Washtenaw County Commissioner, but yeah.
We've had Al Williams. We've had Nicole Braden. Who do we just recently have? David Palmer. And this will be Reggie Davis. This will be the fourth state house representative candidate that we've had.
We are awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, man. I'm always trying to catch up with you guys on Tuesday. Sometimes I don't make it. If tomorrow is one of those Tuesdays, you guys got to promise me to ask the normal guy about the whole thing about the 14 days of the FBI and DEA and them
advising people not to bring cannabis to the protests.
Yeah, as opposed to, you know, flood it with cannabis and make no one guilty.
They're not going to advise anybody to put themselves in that kind of a position. Their point was to eliminate or decrease risk of, you know, having a further issue with the police.
Facial recognition software is being used at those protests was a real point, and that you could just possess cannabis in a state where it's not allowed, and then they could facial recognition bust you. So I think that was their real reason. A guy like me or like you in Detroit, where it's legal to possess cannabis, I can't imagine anybody would.
I mean,
yeah, I'm like,
might be a good.
The police are in the area. The ganja must burn.
Yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think that they would take that position to offer to give that advice to like saturate everything with cannabis.
Yeah, we'll try and get that question in though, for sure. Jen's usually pretty good. She's a public relations person for National Number. She does a lot of media. She's coordinated the program. So as long as we get her on, she'll be great.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I get what you're saying too, Jamie. For sure, that's what it is. But, you know, at the same time, at a time where we got like all this social reform in the works and people up in arms, I would just love to see NORML try to like stoke the flames of revolution. That's all.
I think one of the things that we're concerned with, when I was walking with folks, and also especially on the lawn at the Flint City Hall, they were wanted to be very specially confined on message. They asked people who brought signs advocating for different issues to not display their signs. They wanted it to be singly focused on George Floyd, not have the conversation wander onto other issues like the Flint water crisis. There were some people there with signs about that. And they asked them to just turn the signs around so that they weren't on camera. They weren't really the focus. So in that instance, I don't know about cannabis being a good thing to try and advocate for in the middle of a George Floyd protest. But right now, you're right. People are talking about social justice issues. Cannabis law reform is still really a big, ripe issue in a lot of states. It is an opportunity that maybe is getting missed.
Yeah.
Could do better.
You know, they're the priority of this issue. It's still difficult for somebody to really take the time and energy to take it on and make a decision. Sometimes it's waiting in the wings and other things come up and kind of displace it. And we've had that cycle over the years.
That's one of the reasons why having one of these people who are super passionate about the issue, like I talked about specializing in your activism, you never let it drop. So even when lawmakers would like to not hear about it, that person's still going for it. And even when it's not the favorite story on the front page of the news, that person's still going for it. And those enduring things are how people make change. Jamie, the group that filed the petitions after us, there was the anti-fracking committee with Lou Ann Cosma. That's a person who's really been active on this particular issue for a long number of years. And now they just recently won a court hearing, which means they're going to have a potential game-changing decision made about Michigan law. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. Fracking is absolutely fucking disgusting.
Stupid. It is so stupid.
Well, we could use a better composition of lawmakers in Michigan right now to take care of a lot of this kind of shit. So November is very important.
In a state that depends so much on groundwater and has so much water resources, why we would allow people to pump nasty, disgusting water right back into the water table under high pressure makes no sense. To look at all the earthquakes that have been caused in Oklahoma because of it's crazy.
Go to fucking the Capitol.
I mean, anywhere in the world, in the world, they should not frack. That shit is stupid.
Yep. Somebody trying to reach really an inaccessible source of fuel. It's just, we don't have the right technology to do it safely right now. Maybe they can get it in 20 years when we have better tech. But right now, the way that they do it is pretty barbaric and really doesn't make any sense.
In 20 years from now, we shouldn't even have to fucking do that. We shouldn't even be looking for that type of fuel anymore.
Excellent.
There's
You
no
are
need.
right, Berg.
There's no need.
Hey, I just saw Consumers Power is getting approval, or DT is getting approval for this gigantic wind farm. They're going to be able to bring online maybe by the end of 2021.
That's dope.
Another alternative energy source. Remember, we've got a couple of nuclear plants in Michigan we'd like to see scaled down.
I know all kinds of people talk shit about Ohio. Ohio got some fucking big ass, like on the way to fucking Cleveland and shit. They have all kinds of fucking the windmills, and they're huge.
There's wind.
You don't even realize how big they are until you drive them by.
Have you ever driven by one of those trucks that's got one of those vanes for the windmill on it? The vane is so big it takes like 2 trucks to haul the motherfucker.
Yeah, no, and like the thing is, you know, it might not seem windy on the ground, but like, you know, however many hundreds of feet up in the air, it's like a whole different wind system up there.
See, there's wind maps of the United States of America. They know the windiest places, and really, Michigan, we're in a great shape because we've got Lake Michigan right there, right? So our western side is actually the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, and the wind comes from the west towards the east. So you've got a ton of places that are almost constantly under high wind situations out there. You can put those wind farms up just off the shoreline and knock that shit out, man. Or how about letting us put solar panels back up on our houses without restrictions like people used to do in the 70s?
Yeah, for sure. Oh no, that looks not right for our community.
Yeah.
You can't put solar panels up on your home.
The energy lobby, that's another example of lobbying.
It's rainwater.
Yep, the energy lobby made Lansing put in motion bills to inhibit people from using personal solar. So stupid.
And I mean, you know, we're, as a society, we're always going to kind of be dependent on petroleum, but I don't know why they can't handle not being number one, at least not yet. Because even with, you know, the windmills and other types of quote unquote green technology, a lot of the components are petroleum based.
Definitely.
You know, the
Especially
lubricant
especially tires, you know, it's like 5 fucking barrels of fucking oil to create one tire. That's insane.
And we have the technology to make solid tires that would last like 15 years each. You'd never have to buy another tire essentially for the life of your car, but they don't do that because they want to sell you tires every year or two. So it's a marketing thing. We could do better, but we don't because of the money motive.
Profits, baby.
Imagine hemp tires.
Look, man, Jamie Lowell just unpackaged a brand new 3D printer today, and he's talking about putting some hemp plastic into his 3D printer to create some hemp-based, perhaps smoking accessories.
Or packaging or something, just to start having some fun with it. It'd be cool to be able to mass produce, but that's a long way off. They already make the PLA with the hemp in it right now.
At least the plastic. Yeah.
And hemp's getting going here in Michigan, so there's the raw material to make this type of thing. It's made out of the waste, so it's just a way to keep on using the plant for something else. And there's lots of other shit that can be made out of that too.
Well, they recover the fiber from all that waste, and that's what they use to make down to the plastic, I think. So,
and it's pretty fucking cool, man. Salute, Jamie. Innovator.
See how Well, I mean, these things are starting to get up and running, and it's not an incredibly original idea, but it is not too common either right now. So people use it to make foods with too, man. These things are really cool.
Jamie's very excited to be on the show. Do you hear him panting there?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Hey, I'm outside here in Detroit. There's a constant barrage of explosions and fireworks and guns, almost nonstop. I think right now there's a little lull, but it's gone on pretty consistently all night.
Sherman, the dog, is a little nervous around those noises, so she snuggles up next to her pack leader, Jamie. There's my man, Sherman. Three-legged dog, the three-legged Sherman.
Yeah, makes it easier to see his dick. Yeah.
Come on, bro. You're gonna get us demonetized.
I
You're
think
gonna have to
that
get a
was
model
forever.
release from Sherman now so we can
That was clear for Rick.
Oh, yeah, no. Seen it. Already seen it. I did not need Zoom to experience that. So.
Experience.
No.
All right. Well, on that note, man, everybody tune into fucking Jazz Cabbage tomorrow. It's gonna be lit. They're gonna have normal. They're gonna have people running for office. Give them a piece of your mind. Listen to what they gotta say. It's gonna be sweet. Let's shout out those sponsors, Bert. Who are they? I can tell you. Big shout out to Honeybee Extractions, Native Made 313, Ghostbuster Farms, Western Tobacco, Michigan Terp Farms, Michigan Ganja Queen, and Label My Motherfucking Bud.
That's great.
Pretty high-end lineup there.
Man.
Oh man, you were talking about doing a giveaway, though, Roach.
We did say that, didn't we?
Uh-oh.
Fuck. Hold on, man. Anybody in the chat?
Not we. It was you.
Me. All right, I got it. Hold on.
Thrown under the bus by your oldest.
All right.
What?
It's all gravy. Who's in the chat that's near the Russ right now?
Oh.
Who's by the Russ? Anybody? Who can be here in 15 minutes? You win.
Oh, Prop One. Paul. I think Prop One and Paul is the only ones left. I'm not sure. They might not even be fucking in the chat though.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, Lansing. Yeah, I don't know, man. It says 17 people.
I know. Lansing's here. Lansing.
Melvindale.
Russell.
I don't know. How about this, man? Let's end this.
I think Jamie can fucking get to the rest.
Yeah, Jamie's probably the closest.
Let me run down to Russell real quick.
No.
And I'm going to go live on Instagram. I'll pick a winner on Instagram. I'll go live for like 20 minutes.
Thanks, Rick and Jamie, for joining us once again. I guess we're going to end this and go live on IG. All right,
yes.
Thanks, man. Always good.
Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Oh, thank you for the shout out.
If you guys got time, come on tomorrow.
4 p.m. All right, y'all.